What's up, everyone? I'm recording this late night on Tuesday, January 21st, and it is a precursor to the episode that's coming up next with Rob Moran that I recorded last Wednesday. And so news came out today that Vinny Value passed away, and he was the drummer for Kill Your Idols, No Redeeming Social Value. Played in Warzone for a while. I should say he played in Kill Your Idols for a while. I believe he played on the For Our Friends LP and the From Companionship to Competition LP. But I came across him in like a stretch, like right after the first LP came out, and I think the drummer's name was Rafe, but I don't remember meeting that guy. And maybe that's just a testament to Vinny's his personality was so overpowering that I don't remember meeting another drummer from that band. I didn't know him well, but I do feel like I should say something because Kill Your Idols was by far the most important band taking control. Period, point blank. That's it. Reason being, we started and we're a Oxnard band. We have no idea where we're heading, what's going to happen. We put out a demo the demo came out in late 99. In early 2000, we may have recorded our 7-inch or we may not have, but Andy reached out to us and said Killer Idol's coming to the West Coast. We got a bunch of bands that we liked. We really want you to play some shows with us. And as a band, figuring out what we're going to do and shit, that meant so much to us that, this band reached out to us and was like, what's up? We found you. We love you, and we want to take you out of town. So we went up and we played Santa Cruz, Grass Valley, which is a little north of Sacramento, and Gilman Street with them in sometime in 2000. I don't have the dates in front of me. Early 2000. And that was our first, it was our second shot out of town. We played Sacramento before, but it was our first time going out, spending the night, being together as a band, and being we want to fucking do this. And it gave us the motivation and the confidence to do it. And of the guys I remember, I love them to a man, which is Andy, Paul, Gary, and Vinny is who I remember. And we played shows with them throughout the time they control as a band. Every time we went on tour, Killer Idols helped us out. And, they put on a great Long Island show for us. We did a little run with them, leading up to the final Holding On show. And, so we were hanging out with all those guys and loving them all to a man. And Vinny was funny as fuck. And, so self-aware. The first time, most people ever seen him that aren't from New York or knew him was in the New York Hardcore documentary when, he had the tragic scene of talking about being so bummed out because his job was working on the animal spot and having to put down the animals, and it's so fucking dark, but his I don't know, it's it shines through this dark fucked up humor. You wanted to reach out and hug him, this it is hard to describe. Anyway, he's one of those personalities that always made you feel welcome, and he remembered you, and he appreciated you showing up. I remember it was after In Control broke up. I don't know why I ended up going to a show in Bakersfield, but Killer Idols playing Bakersfield was probably '05 or some shit. Maybe I skipped the LA show or something, and I felt guilty or whatever. I just remember I drove out to Bakersfield on a Tuesday night or whatever night shows hit Bakersfield, and Killer Idol was playing Jerry's Pizza in the basement, and like going in, and maybe I was late, like maybe it was a late minute decision to go, and I hauled ass and got there, and I remember going in and Killer Idol was playing, and like I just pushed right to the front, and like the song ends and Vinny stands up and like points at me, he's like, "Hey, there's that guy," or whatever, and it was like, how you know, you don't expect people to remember you, like that you meet and shit. It made me feel so good, like this dude that I liked a lot, like remembered me, you know, and that's how hardcore music is special, and the people that know all the traveling and shit. You meet these people that like your lives are so different, but you can connect like almost in an unspoken way. It's like you're comfortable with people. You feel like you've been friends for years. It's like when people talk about like the secret handshake, like that's what it is. And he was one of those guys that made me feel like that. I mean, if you think about it, me being able to recollect on that feeling, that means that like I've held that with me for fucking 15 years, you know, of not being in contact. So I'm talking to someone from a distance when, you know, people pass on, and and the people that really know them, they say things like, you know, everyone that came in contact with him loved him, things like that. I just want to add credence to that, you know, I'm someone that only came in contact in passing, you know, a handful or more times, and he was someone special. He surrounded himself by great people and killer idols, and he's gonna be missed by everyone. So he was special. I want to say, I just want to take this time to say that, and this is awkward, and I apologize for being someone that didn't know him that well speaking on it, but that band meant so much to me, and the way they were able to shape the band that changed my life is so important. So rest in peace, Vinny. And that's it. What's up, everyone? This week on the pod, we have Rob Moran from Unbroken, Over My Dead Body, Some Girls, and a ton of other bands. We will go through it all. It was a pleasure to have him on the podcast, and he's awesome. To know him is to love him. Everyone that knows him knows that about him. He's one of the special people that you come across in hardcore that reminds you how lucky you are to come across this kind of music. And there's a lot of him. There's a handful of dudes like that out there, and I'm sure regardless of what scene you come from, there's people like that. There's people like that in Oxnard, and of course there's people like that in San Diego. So I'm going to bring him on, and that is that. If you would like to support the podcast, please like, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Please share with your friends. Please repost this on social media. Please call your friends. Let them know there's a hardcore podcast out of Southern California that they should check out. Maybe they will enjoy it. If you'd like to go the extra mile, it's been suggested to me possibly to mile 186. Shout out, Daisy. You can go to patreon.com/185 miles south, and there you can donate anywhere from $1 to whatever amount you want a month, and that helps keep the show going. The people that help me out, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Hate the begging. This is my least favorite part. But this week, it's a good week, man, because we got Rob on the show, and let's fucking hit it.
"185 Miles South", a hardcore punk rock podcast.
Sounds really good.
I like it.
Good.
I'm a fan.
This might be the quietest room we've ever podcasted in.
For now, until the fire engine across the street, probably the fire station gets a call.
No, I know.
Hopefully it's a quiet night for them.
That's okay. I mean, what's the longest they can be out front? 15 seconds getting out?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. That'll add some flavor.
Yeah, a little sizzle.
So, this week on the pod, we have Rob Moran from, mostly from Unbroken fame, wouldn't you say?
Probably.
Yeah. Unbroken, Over My Body. You can go down the list. Kill Holiday, Some Girls, The Vows, Narrows.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
SS Warhead.
Oh, what year would that have fallen into?
That was during a Narrows tour. We recorded in Prague, and then Mandel put out a 7-inch and sold out, and then we just never repressed it.
That is super rad.
It's like D-beat type stuff. We did it in like 2011, 2012 maybe.
Huh.
Yeah.
I will get the tracks from Mandel.
Okay.
So, but let's go way back. So, one thing I was listening to, I've said it before, but the two inspirations for the show podcast-wise were the 100 Words or Less, which you were on, and then Turned Out a Punk. And when you were on 100 Words or Less, you briefly touched on the fact that your dad was in a banda band.
Not my dad, my relatives.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought your dad was in one that you said he didn't record.
No, my grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah, my grandfather.
And then this dude's your great-grandfather.
Great uncle.
Okay.
Yeah, Cruz Lizarga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to go into.
Sounds good.
So is your great-great-uncle is Cruz Lizarga.
Yeah.
Pronounce it better.
Cruz Lizarga.
Yeah. I went through and I tried my best. Mi español es mierda.
But mira, que hablas bueno.
Oh, no, está bien. But anyway, he did Banda Sinaloense, El Recuerdo de Don Cruz Lizarga.
True.
Or Banda El Recuerdo.
Banda Recodo.
Is how most people know.
Yeah.
And they're like the biggest band, like one of the biggest bands in Mexico.
Yeah, they're huge, like kind of that German oompa type influenced music. It's just called banda. It's like kind of ranch music, party music, wedding music.
It's a little more stripped down mariachi.
No, because it's stripped down. Like mariachi stuff is kind of more trios, which is like kind of crooners and that type of stuff. It's more like kind of raucous, like wild, like party jams. Like, they do have some of like the, like kind of the love song type stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like by and large, like banda is like usually like 10 to 15 piece bands.
Yeah.
Cymbals, brass instruments, bass, some guitars, drums, and, usually a singer or two. And it's kind of wild. Raucous party music.
Yeah, I thought this was such an interesting part of your family history. Yeah. That band started way back in 1938.
Yeah, so it might even be great uncle, something like that. Yeah.
But a unique thing is that their biggest hit was 1979. Yeah. So that's wild that it's like 50 years in, you hit your hit song.
Yeah, because I mean, you got to probably think back then, like there was radios and kind of dance halls, and that was kind of it. There wasn't, it's probably much different in Mexico back then in the 40s and 50s. And I think with the advent of probably better distribution, AM, FM radio, all those things becoming more accessible to people, that probably led to a growth in popularity. But yeah, the band continues with like his son and, and I'm not close to the family. I don't want to make it seem like we go hang out all the time.
No, I'm forcing this conversation on you because I think it's interesting. Like they played the fair last year.
Yeah, they pay. I think they're playing Coachella actually this year. Yeah, which is pretty sick. So yeah, the band still continues with like other kind of distant family members and. But yeah, they're a really popular band.
Yeah, and they did interesting things because they were actually the first brass band to have their own vocalist. Mm. So I guess before they would back other singers. So if you're a famous singer, you would hire the band. Yeah. But they're like, fuck that, we're gonna have our own singer.
DIY.
Like, that's pretty sick.
I know.
and a lot of the unique things they did was actually, unfortunately, after your great-great-grandfather passed, he lived a good long life because he died 2 weeks before he was 77. Yeah. But they won 9 Latin Grammys. They went they went with the Mexican national team to 3 FIFA World Cups.
Yeah, that I knew. They went to a lot of the FIFA stuff with World Cups. That part I knew.
And they played the Plaza de Toros in Ciudad de Mexico.
Wow.
And it holds over 40,000 people. So that's
bonkers.
insane. And sold it out in advance.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's really crazy because I used to really follow pro wrestling a lot. And so they would always talk about like the Lucha Libre stuff.
Yeah.
And Mexico is like historically a walk-up crowd.
Yeah.
You don't buy in advance. You just you go and buy at the
Yeah.
gate. So anyway, that's that.
Yeah.
We can move on.
Kind of runs in the blood.
Yeah, super cool. I think it's interesting anytime that like people come from like a long line of musicians because my parents were athletes, so I was obviously a total letdown.
You're not even a shot put thrower?
No, they shout out one kid and he was a fucking fat kid. It's like you know. So well, they say talent skips a generation. That was me. So, what can you do? Were you born in Chula Vista?
Yeah, born and raised in Chula Vista. Went to Chula Vista Junior and Chula Vista High School. I went to Hilltop for a few years, but then my parents split up for a while and moved to the west side of Chula Vista, over on Broadway and G, Oaklawn area. Yeah, those familiar with the area to this day, it's still not a great area, but back then it was really bad. But yeah.
Which would have been, that's like late 70s, early 80s?
No, it's early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, or mid 80s, like 84, 85.
Okay.
Around there.
And what year do you think you got into punk? Or do you remember?
I got into punk in 84.
Okay.
My grandma, still alive, lived in Chula Vista, and there was a family next door, kind of just, the mom was from England, the dad was from Chula Vista, and they lived next to my grandma. They were like friends with my dad, and they grew up together in high school, but they still lived next door. And they went home to go visit family in England, and the kid came back with shaved head, and it was like, and this was summer of '84, like so, kind of going into 7th grade basically. Yeah. And I was really into breakdancing, Def Leppard, and Adamant. That's like what I was like heavily into. And he's like, "Have you ever heard punk before?" I said, "No." I mean, I kind of know what it is, like through TV, like Quincy and Chips and stuff, but I don't, I never heard anything before.
Sure.
So he played me Circle Jerks, Group Sex, and fucking hell, like it just blew me away.
Yeah.
I'd never heard anything like it. To this day, like I put that record on and I am still stoked.
Yeah.
Like it's like one of the records I probably listen to still more than any of like that old LA stuff. But yeah, he did that and made me a mixtape with that, Dead Kennedys, Exploited, and TSOL.
Okay.
And GBH. And I think my brother still might have the actual cassette from back then. But yeah, I just got into it and immersed. And I was young. I didn't know that you could go to shows or see any of these bands. I had no concept of that. But that's kind of my intro to punk. And then it, led me more into skateboarding and, Thrasher and Pus Zone and all that stuff. That's kind of like how I found out about more bands. And I was, for my birthday, I got a subscription to Thrasher.
Uh-huh.
And then, yeah.
How do you hone in, like, towards the straight edge stuff?
I, at Chula Vista Junior, I was, kind of thought it was punk to, like, smoke pot and do pills and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was young, excuse me, and like I said, I, did not live in a great neighborhood. There's lots of gangs, or, like, metal stoner dudes and jocks, like that was kind of it. And there was a handful of people into skating, and it was in 9th grade in '86. Like this kid Danny was like, "Oh, have you heard Minor Threat?" And I was like, "I don't know, like kinda. I don't know. I don't really know what it is."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I'll make you a tape. It's straight edge." And I was like, "Oh, isn't that like punk people that don't do drugs and stuff?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "How is that punk?" Like, I just didn't understand.
Sure.
I was a kid. And he made me a tape and like gave me a lyric sheet. And I was like, fuck, this is so good. And I heard the lyrics of Straight Edge, and I was like, this is what I want to be. Like, you can still be punk and listen to this. And that was kind of my intro. And then not too long after, I heard 7 Seconds and Uniform Choice and, that type of stuff. And kind of got more into the Straight Edge stuff. So it was like September, October of '86 is when I...
And your freshman year in high school?
No, it was 9th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, I think high school was 10th grade for me back then.
Okay.
Yeah, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
90s.
Well, I went to high school in the 90s. Started in 94.
Oh.
Yeah. But freshman year was our 9th grade year.
Wow.
Anyway. So at the same time you're getting into Straight Edge, actually the first Chula Vista Straight Edge band is starting. 86 Amenity.
Correct.
Right? So when do you come across those guys?
So my parents kind of got back together and we moved back to the house that we grew up in. Barry, the drummer for Amenity, lived up the street. Sergio lived about 2 blocks over, and Robin, the singer, lived about 2 blocks the other direction. So they all lived within like 5 blocks of me.
You're straight in the Amenity neighborhood.
Yeah, the Amenity neighborhood. And then Tim Gonzalez lived just on the other side of the freeway from me. But Barry, I met riding BMX bikes at the school down the hill from our house. And he was like, oh yeah, like we're doing this band and Straight. I'm like, oh cool, like I'm Straight Edge. And I started talking about stuff. And he's like, oh cool. And then and then seeing Amenity in like Bob's backyard. And Tim worked at a surf shop called RC Surf Lines.
Okay.
Which was kind of like a hub for people to meet up to go skating or watch the early Bones Brigade videos, that type of stuff, and then find out about shows and whatever was going on. So Tim was kind of a conduit for bringing like people together through that surf shop and skate shop.
And how much older is he than you?
He's probably 7-8 years older than me.
Okay, so significant.
Yeah. He's probably, because I'm 47, he's probably 54 or 55, something like that.
I was just trying to think of it in like terms of like being a high school kid, because like when you're 15, even when someone's 19, it's like fuck, it's old,
Yeah, yeah. All the Amenity dudes are like 3 or 4 years older than me plus. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you went and saw them, or do you remember your first punk show?
My first punk show was actually not too far from here at the shop. Is at this place called the Palisades.
Okay.
It was summer of '86, and it was Circle Jerks, Doggy Style, Adolescents, and DI.
How stoked are you that like your first show gets to be like the first band you got into?
Yeah, it was.
It's amazing.
It was awesome. I was terrified. I was scared. Then I found out that there was local shows at this guy Bob's house, and he had a band called Neighborhood Watch.
And this is Bob from Vinyl Communications.
Correct. Yeah, Bob Barley from Vinyl Communications. And he had a lot of shows at his house, Amenity and Crimshine and Op Ivy, Cringer. Trying to think, I don't know. He had a lot of shows. He was running for mayor of Chula Vista, and Jello Biafra came and did spoken word as a benefit at La Bella's in Chula.
Wow.
And then afterwards, we all went to Bob's house for a show, and Jello Biafra just hung out. And so as a kid, in like 89, 90, and you're like, oh shit, this is Jello Biafra. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Bob was another person. Like, I think Bob and Tim, I would say Bob and the Amenity guys, but, Tim specifically, I think all those guys, without them, I don't think I would have really stuck with hardcore. I think they kind of opened up a lot of doors for a lot of people.
It's also really important that the first people that you meet are like genuine nice guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if you get into punk and hardcore, there's a good chance your entrance point could be some piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean...
And how many people get chased off that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think about, when I got into booking shows, and I won't name the band, but I was so excited to see him, and one of the guys in the band was the biggest asshole, was rude to me, rude to my father, who was just happened to be there to come say hey, and I was so fucking mad. I just wanted them just to leave. And it was just devastating, So it sucks when that happens. So, those... Bob and Tim, Barry, Sergio, Mike, and Robin, they were all so kind and open, and they showed, we're just local guys doing a hardcore band. Like, you can do this. And it was so inspirational for me growing up.
Yeah, and you did a band before Unbroken.
I did.
A punk band, but you didn't record.
We did. We actually on a Vinyl Communications compilation called Define Quality, and the band is called Caustic Humor.
Okay. So you have one song that came out.
Yeah, one song. It's called Toys in the Attic.
And what does it sound like?
It just sounds like snotty East Bay kind of punk type stuff.
The song specifically.
I mean, the band in
and
general.
The song. You feel like the song was a good representation of the band?
Yeah, if you heard that song, it was definitely, we were very much like kind of like East Bay, snotty type stuff. And
this is 88-ish?
87, 88. And then we played a lot of shows. I mean, because we were just kids. We were junior high, high school kids.
Sure.
And we just did a lot of, opened up random shows. We opened for Cringer. We opened for No for an Answer, Hard Stance, Inside Out, like shows.
Jesus.
There's a flyer with us on all these crazy bands, like huge SoCal hardcore bands, and it's like Caustic Humor.
The rules.
But we were kids, and it was fun, and I played drums in it and did backup vocals, and we were a three-piece. And my friend Chris Kohler, who's my oldest friend, was one of the other guys who was very influential in getting me into a lot of the UK punk stuff. His younger brother played bass in the band.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And then, do you remember like seeing some of these hardcore bands, like seeing Inside Out? Can we go into that a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, who were the standouts for you? Like, you're young and everything's awesome. Plus, all those bands are awesome. So like, but are you able to like take in like, okay, Inside Out is a little radder than No for an Answer?
Yeah. Inside Out was very special. I think there was something otherworldly about them when you saw them live. And I think it proved that when they did that reunion show at the Shea for the Shoshone native tribe with Iceburn, and years after they broke up, and Rage had already been going well into this point, but they did kind of a reunion, Inside Out reunion show at the Shea.
Yeah.
And it did not feel any less otherworldly than when I saw them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not my favorite band, but live, I love them. I still listen to them. But
there's something very special about them, and there's a dynamic. And the reason why I ask is because your next band will be a super dynamic band. That there's attention to detail, and like it's no one would lump in Unbroken. You don't get lumped in with like, oh, this group of bands. Like it's a standout band.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know that. Come on.
I do. It's hard to take that in sometimes, but yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think like we were just fucking kids, and then I look back at like bands like I saw when I was a kid. Like Infest used to play like every other week.
Yeah.
Saw them so many times.
Yeah.
Growing up, and I just like they're fucking amazing, and like they're like 1 or 2 years older than me.
Isn't that wild?
And they're just fucking ripping. Or Hard Stance was awesome live. I remember No for an Answer being okay. Like I remember liking it, but Carrie Nation was fucking rad live.
Yeah.
That was like I thought blew No for an Answer out of the water. Like Carrie Nation was awesome.
Did you see Judge in the garage?
Yeah. I saw Judge 3 times on that tour. I saw them at the Country Club.
Okay.
I'm a lot in the video, actually. It's
really?
It's
okay,
cool.
I'll track it down.
This video that runs at Greg Brown that worked at Rev for many years. His brother put out a video of that show, and you can see me in it a lot, like singing along up front.
Right.
Judge. Yeah, and I saw them at the Garage in Chula Vista with Bold and Chain, and I think Hard Stance maybe. I remember Bold played for sure. I remember the other bands, but yeah, it was good.
I want to talk a little bit about 80 San Diego, just because we haven't touched on it really enough on the podcast. Like, how would you describe it? Like, what's the scene like in 87? And is there a separation between like the hardcore stuff is a little off to the side, right? If you're doing like the garage shows, you're doing garage shows that are kind of like this is hardcore and like this is a little like pocket. But there's also giant, big hall shows and stuff.
Still
and are you going to both?
Going to both, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, like, going to Wabash and Palisades, Jackie Robinson's, California Theater.
And so, like, Pick one and like kind of describe what it's like.
So-
These are just big halls that people are renting.
Yeah, so like one of them was like Jackie Robinson's YMCA. It's like right off the 805 freeway as you're heading south. It's still there. It's completely remodeled now. But they used to have shows there a lot, and they were like hyper violent, super scary. And I saw Uniform Choice and Instead there, and this must have been like 87, 88.
Okay.
And fuck, there were so many fights. Like,
Yeah.
and it was terrifying. You're just kind of like, I just want to sing along and have fun and be posy, and
Yeah.
and it's just like Nazis and ARA skins and everyone just fucking fighting, and that's how a lot of the shows were. I mean, went to see Government Issue and the Vandals and Angry Samoans at Fairmont Hall, and that was another hall that used to have shows all the time, and it ended in a riot and people beating up the Vandals and chasing them around. Like, I mean, it was extremely violent. You can see why a lot of people kind of, I always hear that come up a lot in the podcast. Like, you know, when you talk to people that went to shows in the 80s and they go, it just got more and more and more violent. And it almost became like a people that didn't want to be jocks but wanted to still beat people up.
Yeah.
Just went to punk shows.
Well, that's just insane that the violence is able to last that long, because when I had John from Ill Repute on, he lived in San Diego in 81.
Yeah.
And he talked about it being gnarly, and then it was still gnarly in 87. It's
Yeah.
like so crazy.
Yeah, it didn't stop. I mean, even some of like the small little pocket shows. I mean, there was a show at Vana Communication Records. This band Moral Crux came, and this skinhead crew came, and then a big fight broke out, and people got smashed up with like, you know, drum kit stuff. It was crazy. I mean, it was pretty violent. You know, I saw more violence when I would go to shows in San Diego than I would when I would go to Iguanas and TJ.
Right.
Which is like, shouldn't be the case. You know, when you think about it, people think like, oh, TJ's so dangerous and crazy. And I was 16 going to see like Bad Brains and Leeway or PIL or whatever, and it was just fun. And you go home and come back across the border, where here I would always get scared and angsty because I'm like, okay, like, oh, I see, here's this skinhead crew, and here we go, and then shit happens.
It seems like sometimes, though, people out of the country are more appreciative of music. Like, this is a terrible example, but when Iron Maiden came out and they did that tour where they like flew to all the locations,
Yeah.
I went and saw them at the Forum, and of course, like the next stop on the tour was like Mexico City, and it's like those kids down there fucked us up. Like the Forum seems so lame compared to
Yeah.
them, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Maybe there is a little more unity of like we're all here for the music. Where here there's a bunch of people that are just coming to shit kick.
Yeah, and I think it's changed to a degree. I mean, I go to shows and people do crowd killing and all this other hokey shit, and you know, but the true hyper violence of people like, I'm coming here with my crew and we're just gonna beat people up.
Yeah, it's gone.
That's few and far between. Where back in the day in San Diego, it was just, you know, it was all. Anytime I hear people talk about how violent it was. And it was violent when I was going in 86, 87. I couldn't even imagine what it was like prior. It was probably lawless, you know?
Yeah, well, maybe, but if you look at like the Fender stuff, that kind of escalated as well, right? But I mean, not that I was there, so who knows? I'm talking out of turn.
I wasn't at Fenders either,
But yeah, so I mean, I guess the violence. But that just seems like a long time for a scene to be so violent.
yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe because like it's a military town and just people coming from all over, and they're just like, I'm just gonna come and.
It has to be that it's like a convergence of so many different types of possible ignorance.
Yeah.
You know, you got like broed out surfers, and you know, and then you got the military, and then you got like the total East County vibe stuff, and then you got some hood stuff, and it's like everything together is crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's hardcore in the 80s.
That's hardcore in the 80s, yeah.
It's so safe now. Isn't it cute?
It is. I mean, I bring my son, and he loves it.
Yeah, that's why. But that's why like the crowd killing stuff is so silly. It's like you're trying to like create like a sense of danger somewhere that there's no danger. So stop playing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So save it.
It's a very look at me type of.
Yes.
Like, everyone watch this. I'm gonna bum everyone out. And
I
then
know.
like it doesn't work, and then you just look dumb on video, beating people up on the head, and then.
Yeah, like you're the girl in the bikini doing cartwheels on the beach. Literally.
Yeah.
So, anyway, why did the band break up? Your punk band.
I don't know. We were just kids and.
And grew up and wanted to do something more serious.
Yeah, do something else, and.
What was the amount of time between? Between that and
Constant
starting
Humor
Unbroken.
broke up in like 90,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah, but Unbroken first 7-inch 92.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 90, and then Unbroken was already started before I was in the band. They were called Flatline, and it was Eric, Brian, Todd, and someone else.
Okay.
And
Did they demo at all?
no, not that I'm aware of. And then they were kind of going through a lineup change. It was Cliff from Struggle was in
Okay.
it too. Then they were kind of going through a lineup change, and they said, "Oh, you know, do you want to play bass?" Like I was doing this like cover band called Excellent Covers, and we would
Okay.
just do like 8 or 9 like hardcore
Okay.
like, cover songs that just for fun at shows and stuff.
And what are you playing in that?
I was playing bass,
Okay.
and they're like, "Yeah, we saw you play bass. You know, do you want to, you know, come check it out?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so I'm like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." And then we kind of just rolled from there.
Yeah.
And started the band, and we were a 4-piece. And then we were about to go record. This is pre-cell phone. And I still kind of don't really know what happened. I should actually ask Brian, because I see him from time to time when he comes visit San Diego, the original singer of Unbroken. Like, what happened? Like, where did he go? Like, like Mike from New Age was like, "I want to put out a record. You guys want to come up to LA and record a couple songs for 7-inch?" We're like,
Okay.
"Yeah." So we started practicing, and then like Brian was just gone.
Okay.
For like 4 or 5 weeks. We're like, "What the fuck are we gonna do?"
Yeah.
So we knew Dave from coming to shows, so we just said, "Hey, do you want to sing?" And then Steve was always coming to like our practices and hanging out. He was friends with Eric and Todd, and he knew how to play guitar. We're like, "Yeah, we should get a second guitar player." So we added Steve, and then that became the lineup going forward.
And where are you practicing?
Todd's parents' house. So every now and again at my parents' house, but or like a practice studio.
Okay.
But more often.
And
than
Todd
not,
lives in what part of town?
he kind of lived in not too like El Cajon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you practicing in the living room, the garage? Yeah.
Garage. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I'm interested in.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what the neighbors thought.
Yeah.
Because it was
Yeah.
a very quiet street.
Sure. And do you get to leave your equipment there, or every time you're showing up with your
No,
equipment
just
and setting
leave it
up?
there. I take my bass usually just so I can practice at home.
Sure.
And then just leave all the gear there. Yeah.
Okay. And do you stay on schedule to go do that 7-inch? Is that the actual first 7-inch?
Yeah, we stay on schedule. We played a show with Strife and a few other bands. And then Mike was like, "I for sure want to do this. Like, come up." You know, so I think like a month later we went up to LA, to Simi Valley.
Do you remember meeting Mike Hartsfield the first time?
Yeah, I met him through Outspoken
Okay.
at the Shea, and I think it was like Eric who sent the demo to Mike and was like, "Hey, we like your label and check this out." And then
That's going out on a limb.
Yeah.
Oh, I like New Age in 1991.
and I asked Mike, and he was like, I was like, "That demo is like awful. It's
Okay.
like unlistenable.
Yeah.
Like there's not even a good riff in it." Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
And he goes, "I don't know what it was. There was just something about it that was like, I want to work with these people." And I didn't. He's like, "I still can't put my finger why I said
So you
yes."
did demo, though?
The Unbroken demo, yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, but the prior to me being in the band, there was no
Okay.
demo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did do a demo, though, with you in it. And where do you record?
4 songs. We recorded in Santee.
Okay.
Yeah, at a home studio, some random guy.
Yeah. Just on a reel?
Yeah.
He had some little setup, and you
Yeah,
did it?
and then we made a bunch of tapes. I think we made like 50 tapes or 100 tapes, and
And that's it?
that was
It
it.
never came out again?
No, it's like a quote unquote bonus, like on the discography.
On the Indecision one
Yeah.
much later?
Correct.
Sick.
Yeah.
And you don't like it, though?
Oh God. You should listen to it and see what you think.
I will listen to it
You have
eventually.
a very different opinion. You'll wonder what went through Hartsfield's head.
Well, he struck gold because even the first 7-inch is good. Don't you think? Fuck yeah! When you start and then you cut out and you're already on like the acoustic. It's like, what the fuck? That's really wild thinking for like.
Yeah.
Okay, who wrote that one?
That was all Eric.
Okay, and he's what age?
He's
at
got
that
to be
time?
like 18.
That's
17,
insane
18.
to think of something like that
Yeah.
at 18.
Yeah, and then Eric and Steve wrote all the music.
Always.
Always. You know, and I would be like,
But
okay,
you're
so-
arranging. Everyone is helping with that.
I mean, a tiny bit here and there, but the music is like, I would say 95% Eric and Steve, and then the rest is me and Todd. Well, what about this or what about that? I wrote a lot of lyrics
Okay.
for the band, and then did like bookings and tours and merch and dealt with all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. The 7-inch I thought was interesting. I haven't listened to it in a long time. But
Two songs, 7-inch is cool. I think it's a move.
But I'm sure it was, but I don't know if it holds up.
Well, I think you like from hearing other stuff from you, you downplay a lot of the early stuff. Like,
Yeah.
And we'll get there. I mean, right after you do the 7. Okay, well, let me slow down. You do the 7-inch. How many shows are you playing on the demo alone?
We're probably doing like a show every couple months. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, just off the demo. Like
So you play like 10 shows before the 7-inch?
Easily, if not more.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we were going to Orange County, Simi Valley.
So you're doing the whole SoCal circuit?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, doing stuff with like Undertow and Strife and Resurrection and like doing different shows and stuff.
Uh-huh. And are you gaining a following like of your own?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I think like locally there was like people starting to come to the shows and people being supportive. Like Justin from Locust Struggle was a very early supporter of the band. Like always, like at our shows, like either singing along or helping sell merch or just hanging out. Like always supportive of us from like almost day one. So we had friends like that, and that started to kind of got bigger and bigger. To where, we'd play a show and there'd be, 50 kids or 80 kids.
Sure.
And that was cool.
Which is a great draw. I mean, how many bands draw 80 kids here right now at the Shea?
Yeah.
That's like an accomplishment.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Some great bands right now.
There are some great bands right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to shout out, make them feel good? You should.
I will.
Okay.
I think Therapy is probably the best band in San Diego.
Okay.
I fucking love that band.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Headcount, Bayonet, Heat, Thread Puller. There's a lot of bands, PSO or whatever. There's like a lot of bands right
Take
now
Offense?
that are going. Yeah, of course, Take Offense.
Violencia from Tijuana?
Violencia from TJ, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of great bands from San Diego right now. So
You just made how many days? You made like 10 days right now.
I don't
So
think
nice.
I
You
don't
got to
think
spread the
people
love.
I don't think people really care what this old man has to say about
Oh,
that
Rob,
stuff.
I strongly disagree. So anyway, do you see the your popularity grow after the 7-inch comes out?
A bit, yeah. I think that it was easier to get shows. It was easier to like play out more. Yeah, I saw a little bit more. You have more people singing along.
Yeah, and these are 2 songs. Are they like the hit of the...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You kind of saving.
Did you open with one and end with one?
kind of end with the other. Yeah, you know the move.
Yeah, but that's so rad.
But it was cool, and then we started, writing songs for what became Ritual, which again, I think we were at this point where we were. I mean, I'm gonna say this for lack of a better term, just a generic straight edge band. Like, we need a song about veganism, a song about sexism, homophobia, racism, a song about being straight edge, a song about your friends, a song. It was just like straight edge 2.0. Which there's some bands that do it really fucking well, and that's awesome. But I don't think we did that well with Ritual. There's a few songs on there that I'm like, fuck, these songs are great, and then there's a lot of like, just what the fuck we were thinking. I think that we were trying to hurry and record so we can do a tour and get it out before the tour, and so we were kind of rushed. And then we kind of ran into a weird situation where we discovered drop D tuning and changed the way we were writing music. And so by the time Ritual came out, we had like 4 songs for Life, Love, Regret already written.
Yeah.
And we were like, we're well past this. So like on that tour in 93, we were playing some of the Life, Love, Regret stuff, like 1 or 2 songs from that era, because we, we're like, this is
Sure.
where we're headed.
No, it's hard, and that's hard to switch the tuning when you're playing live, too. I do want to say, I like that generic shit because I think that hardcore apologizes for itself too much sometimes, worrying about being a little too generic, when the foundation of it is a lot of this generic stuff that's righteous and needs to be said more, right? Like all the anti-racist stuff. Like
yeah.
when you went through like the temples of there. Obviously, I'm not straight edging, so I'm not all the way behind that. But like the tentpole songs that you're talking about that you think are generic, it's like I think every band needs to have one of those songs. Like you better do the anti-racism song. You better like be down for your friends. You better like know the unity stuff.
But I think there was bands that did that better than we did at that time. I mean, look at a band like Turning Point or something that was kind of a contemporary during, and listen to Always Darkest, which is a fucking amazing LP.
Sure. Compared
to Ritual, which they're not too far apart in age, and it's like Turning Point blows that album out of the water.
Are you the same age? Is Turning Point?
They're a little before us. Yeah, they're late 80s.
Yeah.
And then I think they.
But the LP and the LP is like 90.
91, 92, something like that.
Yeah.
Probably 91.
I mean, it's hard to compare yourself to a classic band.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, like there was bands I felt that like did it better than we did. It's more metal. Yeah. And so what other bands are doing? Like you're playing very tight. Mm-hmm. It's tight metal hardcore in '92. Yeah. That's not oversaturated yet, is it? No, I mean, we were trying to do something that was kind of like where Judge and In Contrast to Sin, Integrity 7-inch kind of blended together, I think, is what we were kind of going for. Mm-hmm. In 93. I would say that was kind of... You're right, 93. Yeah. 92, 7-inch, 93 is Ritual. LP, Ritual. And that's kind of what we were going for, I think. I think musically, I felt that there's parts that we were very successful. And then when we were doing these reunion shows, we'd play a couple of those songs because we're like, these songs are still good. Yes. But I would say like 70% of the record wasn't that great. And so we kind of, I don't want to say just threw it away. We made the best of it. We're like, we're still going to tour on it. We'll play some of these songs, but we're already heading towards Life of Regret and being heavier and being in a different place mentally. Okay, so Drop D, you get the idea from? I'm not sure. I think it was Eric. He's just fucking around tuning? Yeah, Eric came up with it and figured out a way to make songs heavier. And we were, Those Who Fear Tomorrow was like very influential for us. And so it's like, how do we make that even heavier? Like drop the tuning, and it just became more brutal. Yeah. And so that's kind of where that came from. How do we make everything sound darker, more oppressive, and lyrically, some of the stuff I was writing was definitely darker, and more nihilistic. Of like nothing matters, like we're all dead. And why are you feeling that way? I think all of us were feeling that way. I think, people were losing family members, girlfriends, breakups, jobs. You're now in your early 20s and mid-20s, and you're supposed to start to have to figure out what you're supposed to be to make it. And it's oppressive and dark, and you look at the world, and you're like, this place is fucked, and what am I going to do that's either going to make a difference or sustain me? Yeah. And I think that was the very difficult part of it all, was that we couldn't, I don't think at that time we could really come to grips with it. And that album was a truly cathartic, emotional experience in every sense. Yeah, I think that's why that record's so dark. I mean, even the way it looks. Yeah. It was all by design. Yeah. Like, all of it was by design. Yeah. Third press looks the best. The baby blue. The baby blue? Yeah. That was supposed to be first press. It was supposed to be baby blue. Okay. But the printer messed up, and it came out with that dark, and we're like, that kind of looks even cooler. Yeah. Like, it's even more depressing. Yeah. Yeah. I hate to jump back, but where did you record Ritual? Ritual was at the original Double Time studio at Jeff's house, over in near San Diego State, San Carlos area, and then Life Love was recorded at the actual Double Time studio at the warehouse in Santee. Yeah, this is Santee. Yeah, maybe it's El Cajon. Maybe it's El Cajon. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, El Cajon. Sure. I think it's El Cajon. You're right. It is El Cajon. Okay. I heard a rumor a long, long time ago that I think is not true, but someone was saying that you took 2 takes
maximum on Life, Love, Regret. And that's why, so Ritual sounds super tight and proficient, like your playing is like top notch, and Life, Love, Regret is a looser played record. Obviously, you're not slipping your skills. The songwriting is getting better. The songs are way more insane, but it is a looser played record.
Yeah.
So, is there any merit to that?
I would say there's no merit to the amount of times that we...
There was no rule you went in like, if we don't get it the first time, we take the second take.
No, not that I recall. I don't remember that at all. But I do know that we were kind of like literally bearing it all. There was fights during the recording. During Curtain, when you hear Eric screaming and crying, he was literally screaming and crying. He's gone through a horrible breakup and family issues and was in a horrible place. And so we heard the sour notes. We heard some of the looseness and the sloppiness, and we thought, you know what? Jeff was like, oh, you hit a sour bass note, or this drum fill doesn't make sense. Like, go, and we're like, but this is us. This is what we sound like live. We were never tight live. People were always like, oh, they're sloppy. Like, yeah, because we're just fucking going crazy and throwing our shit around and just feeling what we're putting out. And that's kind of how it was in the studio. It was very, very real. That I vividly remember. There was no rule, though, about, if we don't get it within 2 takes, then whatever it is, like, that's what it is. Yeah. Like, I know that there's bands that do that, like Alien Sex Fiend's a band that does that. They'll like, well, we do 1 take and that's the take. Yeah. And like, you're like, fuck. But yeah, we weren't like that. It was very much like we heard the bad fills or the sour notes or parts that should have been tighter. But then the more we thought about it during mixing, it was like, but this is us. Like, why go fix that? Because this is what people are going to hear live. You're going to hear a missed note or a bad fill or a late break, whatever it is, you're going to hear that live because we were never really tight. I think that as we got more comfortable, just kind of, this is who we are. We're like 5 fucked up people and in our own way, and we're just surviving like everyone else, and this is us, and like take it or leave it. And then we stopped kind of caring about what people thought, and we just like went for it. And that was kind of, I think, radical departure where Ritual had to be tight, everything had to be nailed, and I think it's great. There's a time and a place for that type of stuff of being super tight and everything needs to be spot on and varnished, and but I've musically always kind of leaned more towards the sloppy stuff, the stuff that's just barely hanging on by a thread. That's the stuff that I've always leaned on, and so it was really incredible for Eric and Steve to write these songs that were always just kind of hanging on by a thread. I like it, and that's, I would say, how that record came out. Why it came out the way it did. But it was recorded for $650. We were given $1,000, and we spent $650 on the recording and $100 on the reel. And then bought lunch, and then we gave Mike Hartsfield change.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is that the only time that ever happened?
I think that's he said. He's like, I don't think anyone's ever given me change before from a budget.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we were just too honest. I don't know.
So that means it was recorded probably in 3 days back then?
About 4 days.
Okay.
It was like $10 an hour. It was cheap.
Yeah, it's really cheap.
Back then, yeah. The reel was like more expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did it about 4 days. I think we did like 2.5 days of like recording and overdubs, and then a day and a half of mixing.
Yeah. Is there anything you're unhappy with from that record?
Nothing.
How about any of the other guys? Did they ever like express anything they didn't like?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because even it's like when we play the songs, like they're like, oh, we're gonna play every song off this record.
Yeah.
Because we love every song on the record, and I think that's a testament to what Steve and Eric wrote musically. And and I think that's I don't think they would feel any different.
Yeah, and it came out how you want it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the feeling of ever walking out like, that's how I wanted that record to sound.
Yeah, I mean that's
amazing.
Even to this day, when I heard it not too long ago when we were, doing a few reunion shows, and I went to like re-listen to the songs, and I was like, God, these still sound great. I even like the recording, and I think it could have been mastered better. And I think Paul Miner did a good job of like remastering it. But yeah, even like the layout, all of it came out. I wouldn't change anything. Like,
and that's all you guys pitching in. That's like a full group effort.
Well, the cover was all me. All that is, because Eric had written Life, Love, Regret on his chest, and it's on the photo of the back of Ritual. So he had been on that vibe for a long time. And we were still kind of kicking around, like, what are we going to call the record? And I remember having a dream, like, we're going to call the record Life, Love, Regret, and we're going to have 3 pictures, and it's, I don't know what the pictures are, but under each one it's going to say Life, Love, Regret, and then Unbroken. And everyone's like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So I was really into that movie, Swing Kids, and so I got my film camera, and I was playing it on the VCR, and I would pause it and take a picture, pause it and take a picture. And that's where the photos came from. And then so I kind of did a mock-up, and I was like, this is what I'm thinking for the layout, and it's all going to be dark, like just black, matte, dark record. And the guys were like, oh, that sounds cool. In the back, it'll just be simple and clean. And so the cover was like probably 90% me. Like, and then the inside, everybody was like, I want this to look like the lyric sheet. Everyone on the inside, like, it was 100% group effort. Like, everyone like pitched in on how they wanted to go. And I think it was Todd that came up with the idea of like, oh, everyone should get their own page. Like, oh, that's kind of cool.
It is.
So we didn't cost much for recording, but I think it killed Mike's pocket on the layout.
What were you listening to outside of hardcore at the time of writing that? All the guys.
Britpop. Like, we were all Britpop and metal. Like,
is there any like of the first like the early '90s is so like that's the best like black metal stuff? I feel like some of that bleeds in. Were you into any of that, or was that just all like?
I was into death metal. I didn't know about black metal then. I didn't discover black metal until I was in Europe in '94.
Oh yeah.
But
so the record had already been written.
Yeah, but I was super into, like, I would go to like see Entombed and Carcass and Death Angel, Dark Angel, Testament. I was into metal, but I was also super into Britpop and super into hip hop. That's the stuff that like I was into. Whatever, Morrissey, Blur, Suede, like all that stuff. That's the stuff that I was like, super into. And the same thing with the band. We were very much into the Britpop stuff and metal.
That's what opens up the lyrics to be more special, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're following artists that are able to like lay things on their sleeve more so than hardcore bands.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the articulation came from in the lyrics, that it was very much like, I'm not trying to be some aloof, like, transcendental lyricist that, trying to be all abstract. It's like, no, you can use the English language to paint a picture, and that's something that we always, realized, I think, with a lot of the Britpop stuff. Like, you got a feeling of what it was like to live in that small town, or what it was like to be at a rave, or what it was like to, and even though I hadn't done those things, like, through these lyrics, I can understand what their life was like through their eyes because of how they wrote their lyrics. So that was, I think, very influential.
Well, it's a real skill to be able to be kind of artsy like that without coming off pretentious.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you guys were able to do so well, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we were never pretentious. I mean, I think that you touched on this earlier, which is, it's cool when you can meet someone of a band that you like and the people are nice. Like, we just try to be nice people. But people thought that we were this, like, pretentious, like, weirdos, and, I mean, we caught a lot of shit on tour.
So people did talk about that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm, full disclosure, I don't get into hardcore till, like, 96-ish. Yeah. And so you're before my time. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Yeah. At what time do you start, like, does Unbroken always have a curated image?
No.
Or does that happen around the time of Life, Love, Regret?
That's when things kind of get more, like, we're going to, like, we were already kind of, like, greasing our hair and stuff and all that, like, 92, 93, we all had pompadours and all that stuff. But I would say it started to get more curated of like, well, this is kind of how we dress, and these are the bands that we're into, and we would talk about that stuff more. And sometimes you'd be met with like, well, that's fucking lame, like that's not punk, or that's not hardcore, or like whatever. And then other times you'd meet people that, you know, you're still friends with because of like being who you were, and they were into those same things, you know, like, you know, Garrett from Texas, or Jim Trooper from Chicago, you know, all these different people, because you just connected musically. And I think that was one of the beautiful things, is that we were like, this is who we are, and you can like it or not, and we're just going to present you with who we are as 5 people, and you may or may not like it, and come along for the ride. And I think the people that got it had a great fucking time.
But you're still into hardcore and not like above it, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And I think that's
I mean, we would X
difference.
up. Like, I would X up. Like,
that's the difference, right? I mean, I remember like, you know, some of the more generic like straight edge hardcore bands from like the late '90s. You know, I was way into that stuff, and then you'd see like when they transition out of that music, you'd see them like give some top 10 list, and it's like there's not a single hardcore record on here. It's just all, you know, like, oh, I like Britpop only now, or this, you know, and it's just like, oh, this is so lame. Like you're 2 years out from being like in a generic band. It's like you would hope that you would have some connection to that stuff, that you'd like hardcore still. Yeah. You know. So anyway, I mean, I think that's a little bit of the difference.
I think that was the same thing. I mean, it's like I would be just as happy listening to Suede or Pulp as I would to 108. And,
right.
You know, and I never liked the Christian stuff or whatever, but 108 is fucking one of the greatest hardcore bands ever. Sure. Fucking incredible band. And I would be just as happy listening to them as I would to, you know, Morrissey or whatever else back then. And so, and I you know, I think hardcore is very, very special, and it would make me sad when people would get into like post-hardcore bands and be like, oh, that's when I was a kid. Because you know what? They always come back. Yeah. They all come back. Yeah. Every single one of them. Yeah. And for me, it's like you know, and a lot of people, we just never really left. It's like, yeah, we have lives and we can't go to every show and do this and that, but like I try to keep up, and I still like modern hardcore bands and try to go to shows when I can, even help put on a show now and again. So, you know, hardcore has given me an incredible life, and an incredible amount of friendships all over the world. And so for me to pay it back by doing things and supporting new bands, I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Agreed. Yeah. You know, that's why I had to find this project.
No, this is, we'll talk later about my feelings on your podcast.
Oh, come on. So, after Life, Love, Regret, you're very prolific. You don't stop writing. Mm-hmm. Because, like, everything you do is good from here on out. You like everything. Everything. From there on out. Yeah. Okay, so same year you do the And Fallen Proverb 7-inch? Correct. Later. Because you recorded Life, Love, Regret in March, and you record And Fallen Proverb in July.
The summer.
Yeah, and so are you on tour when you do it?
We were on tour with Undertow, and we had, and kind of awesome, kind of a bummer, we had a day off, and my brother and Mandel were on tour with us, and who's my brother, Mandel? I don't remember. So we were on tour. We had a day off. We went to go record the 7-inch, but everyone was like, oh, Tim Singer from No Escape has a brand new band, and they're playing at Josh Gravel's basement, you know, the Trustkill basement. I was like, oh my God. You know, and of course I didn't get to see, you know, the band, and I was bummed, but we recorded 3 songs during that session, but only 2 of them we had time to put vocals to. Mm-hmm. One of the other ones we saved for the last 7-inch. But Ken Olden just got a brand new studio over at his house in Maryland, and so he invited us, hey, come over, let's just try it and see what happens. And that was a 7-inch.
And you do it in one day?
Yeah, one day.
Because it's...
He mixed it later.
Sure.
But yeah, we did, and we were like literally like in the hallway, and it was real crazy.
Because the recording's great for a one-day recording, huh?
Yeah, I love the recording. It's so raw. Yeah. And like punk. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it as well.
Thank you.
I think it's Daniel's favorite stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, he was pitching it really hard on me and Greg one time. So.
I think I heard that on his '90s stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah. The split with Groundwork, is that just songs off of Life, Love, Regret?
No, it was different versions of those songs, and they were actually in a different tuning. They were actually in B.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
not D, so they were even gnarlier and sludgier. I think we just fucked up. I don't know.
Why no love for C? You know you can go to C.
Maybe it was in C. I don't remember.
I went to B. That's insane.
Yeah, I don't remember what the tuning was, but I know it wasn't drop D, and it was definitely a lower tuning. It might have been C, but it was either C or B. But yeah, we recorded those songs, and that came out on the Bloodlink split, and that was recorded before Life, Love, Regret.
Okay.
But it just came out way later.
Yeah, so you're kind of like demoing some Life, Love, Regret songs?
Yeah.
Interesting. And then you get bootlegged by Lost and Found.
Kinda.
That's like a real feather in the cap, no?
I guess.
That doesn't that puts you in like hardcore royalty. That's the real shit.
That was crazy because they were like, we were going to tour in Europe, and we had like minimal distribution out there, and guys from Battery were like, you should really have Lost and Found like put out an EP or something because their distribution, and we didn't know anything about it.
Sure.
So we said, okay, you can do these 2 songs on the EP, and then we show up and they put us on a split 7-inch with a random band with a different song, and then they take 2 songs from different records and throw them on the CD.
It's the weirdest thing.
And then people were yelling at us every night, like, Lost and Found are ripping off hardcore. Fuck you for doing a record with them. And we're like, we had no idea. And they're like, you do your research and, understand the politics.
There's no internet, stupid.
Yeah, I know. It was like every night getting yelled at. And then finally it all came to a head. We were on tour. And we were playing about an hour away from Lost and Found headquarters, so they went there to pick up some merch and stuff. Battery did, so we went in, and then me and the dude just got in a huge fucking argument. And I was like, you're a fucking bootlegger, you took our stuff. He's like, I'm a bootlegger, fuck you. And he started yelling. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And there was a giant box of No for an Answer Thought Crusade bootlegs. And I fucking kicked the box and records went everywhere. And he was, get the fuck out. And he was yelling and telling Eric to get out. And Eric's like, no, I'm a lazy American. I'm going to sit here and drink your orange juice. And then it just got worse. And it ended up where... a very famous band was coming through. They were about 2 weeks behind us on tour, and they had a distribution relationship with him, and he said that we were saying all this crazy stuff, and then these guys wanted to kill me when I saw them, and I was terrified, and I was like, that's not what happened. I explained the story, and the guy was like, what the fuck? Like,
and it got squashed.
It got squashed, but it totally got squashed, but it was like, it was bad.
Scary couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was Lost and Found headquarters like?
It was this giant warehouse. They had like a couple people with like computers doing graphics.
Okay.
And they had like a whole band area with like showers and bunk beds and all that stuff. And then just a giant warehouse, probably 4,000 or 5,000 square foot warehouse. Just racks of records and like for their mail order and distribution.
Insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So
it was a bum out.
Yeah. Is that the first time you went to Europe?
Correct. Yeah, 94.
Okay.
And
let's back up though. Did you tour the U.S. before that?
Yeah, we did a tour in 93, 94.
Okay.
In the U.S. And then we went to Europe.
So you toured the whole country off Ritual?
Correct.
All the way out and back?
All the way out and back. Yeah, we did 4 weeks.
Oh, holy cow.
And then Life, Love, Regret tour was 3.5 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, there and back.
And can you compare the two, like your popularity on the Ritual tour versus
the
Life,
Ritual
Love,
tour,
Regret?
there was a handful of kids in every city that were like stoked that we were there. Most people were like, whatever.
Most of the shows are pretty small.
Yeah, there was a handful of shows that were really good, really well attended. Like Jamie Josta did our Connecticut show, and that was awesome. I remember Syracuse Lost Horizon show was pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then Virginia Beach, for some reason, things just really clicked there, and Chicago. I don't know, we just, like, those were, like, cities that, like, we just really always did well in.
Yeah.
Even on Ritual, there's probably about 100 kids at the show, for our first show there, and it went really well. And then Life Love comes out about a week before we go on tour, and then we start in Huntington Beach, and the show was just rammed, and we were like, holy shit, like people actually like us. Like we just didn't know.
What's the club in Huntington?
It was like some German Old World.
Okay.
It's called Old World. Probably holds like 300-400 kids.
Did it have a run for a while?
Oh yeah, they did a few shows there. I remember like 1134 and a few other bands I think play there. They probably had like 4 or 5 shows there. But yeah, it was wild.
Okay.
It was packed and crazy and
Where do you head out of California? You go towards Arizona?
Arizona, or no, we go up to we go to Utah to drop off. I think we borrowed the Rev van
Okay.
for that tour, I believe.
So you go play Salt Lake?
No, we just dropped someone off, and then we were supposed to go to Denver.
Okay.
It was the first show, and we were heading. There was this gigantic fire, and we got stopped. We couldn't get through.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was.
So first show
Yeah.
canceled.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you go after that?
I don't.
Because that's kind of the interesting one. Like if you can cut up, there's really nothing great to hit until you can get up to like the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
So I'm always curious people's. Hey.
I think
Curious people's
we
routings.
went to Omaha,
Okay.
and then Chicago.
So what was Omaha
Detroit.
like? And
Omaha was cool. I mean,
Yeah?
yeah, it's like 70 kids,
That's
80
great.
kids. It was fun. You know, this guy Andrew, who I'm still friends with, he lives in New Mexico now. They were just out here not too long ago, but yeah, he would book all the shows there in Omaha. I remember he booked like us and Face Value and other bands, but we played Omaha twice. First time was in a boxing ring in '93.
awesome.
And there was maybe like 40 kids, and
Sure.
then we come back the second time, and it was definitely better attended. Yeah, and then yeah, Chicago, Detroit, Columbus, and then I don't know, then hit the east, and then come back down and around.
In Virginia Beach, it resonated.
Yeah, big time.
You know, so the only 2 places that In Control did well were Virginia Beach and Houston.
Really, Houston?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder why Houston. That's cool.
The kids got good taste there, or they did.
No, they still do.
Yeah.
You should go back there to do a reunion show.
Yeah, no thanks. But not if I was going to go somewhere, it would be Houston. But reunion show, don't want to do it.
Yeah, so Virginia was always awesome.
That's so cool.
To us. Yeah.
So
And I
cool.
mean, that's where I met people that I'm still friends with to this day, which is
And are they-
pretty amazing.
Are they from Virginia Beach proper? Or I always wonder like if half the kids that went to the Virginia Beach shows were like from Richmond.
Richmond and, you know,
It's
that
just
area.
that whole area,
Yeah,
huh?
that whole area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the shows that, like, you know, that whole Richmond, Virginia Beach
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like, back then, the shows were awesome.
But when we came through, there was no Richmond option. It was like we'd always play like Virginia Beach or Norfolk, I feel.
Oh, Norfolk?
Yeah. And it was
Yeah.
always good. It's
That's
cool. I mean, just cool area. Some
Yeah.
in the water,
Yeah.
right? Who knows?
Good scene.
Yeah. So then your final. Oh, let's talk about going to Europe. So you go with Battery.
We go with Battery. We do 5 shows by ourselves
Okay.
first. Our first show was in Prague, and it was fucking crazy. It was so packed and so wild and so crazy. They had a place called the 007.
Okay.
It's still around. It's
Okay.
a very, very special club for us because we played our first show and our last show there. So we went through, we played. Show was wild. We did a tour. Shows were pretty good for the most part. There was a couple clangers here and there, but I remember a show in Italy. We played this gigantic squat in Bologna, and there was probably like 700 kids. It was
Holy
so
cow.
crazy. We just looked out, and we're playing, and kids are just going crazy and circle pits and singing along, and it was just wild. And I remember the shows like in Holland, you know, playing with Main Strike and those bands was really cool. But we didn't make it to England. There was no.
That's
hardcore
early
scene.
Main Strike.
Yeah.
That's early Main
It's
Strike.
awesome.
They're
Like,
not good.
too far after
They're not good
Profound.
yet.
Oh, I love Main Strike. I like all of it.
I love Main Strike, but no passing phase. The second LP is
Oh, yeah.
way better.
Yeah, it's a banger.
Way better. The first one, they're kind of doing like the mouthpiece beat. It's not so hot.
The cheap beat.
Yeah, that's a bad beat.
No, it's good. Chris Bratton, man. It's a great beat.
Well, that's a different cheat beat. He does, and he's got the fills. I mean,
True.
come on.
But yeah, so
How
we
did-
do that, and that was the first time I heard about black metal.
Okay.
was on that tour. We stayed with Renee from Spawn. He was in True Blue later. Stayed with him. I think it was just like me and Dave and maybe Todd stayed at his house. There was like 2 or 3 of us, and he started telling. He's like, "Oh, do you guys like metal?" We're like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, my brother's into black metal." I'm like, "What the hell's black metal?" And we go into his brother's room, who wasn't there, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, just bands I'd never heard of. I couldn't even read the writing. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And he's like, "Oh, you know, they're crazy. They burn churches and attack each other, and there's this whole crazy scene in like Norway." And so I was like, "I don't know." I just thought he was making it all up. And then like 4 or 5 years later, the Lords of Chaos book comes out, and I was like, Renee wasn't lying. This all really happened. It like blew me away.
Yeah.
That, like, you know, to be that close to that scene and not know anything about it, but it was interesting.
Well, I thought that maybe you had already heard it just because the fast part on Life of Regret when you break in on the one song, it's like it's very black metal-y. Like, it's not death metal-y at all or anything. It's like,
that was just from the heart. I don't think
that's so cool. You just locked into it.
Yeah, we have absolutely no ties to black metal.
If you would have put out that record 4 years earlier, you could have invented the entire genre. They could have traced it back to the one riff.
That one riff.
It's like, fuck.
But I will say, like, when we were, there's an Entombed song called Serpent Speech. And when we were on tour in '94, it's a B-side to the Wolverine Blues EP. Mm-hmm. And we were listening to that, and Eric is like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was like, "Dude, it's Entombed. It's a song." And he's like, "What a sick riff." And that's where, like, Absentee Debate kind of comes from. Like, it's very, very similar. You can kind of hear even the opening feedback sequence and kind of how it breaks into the riff.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah. And so you come back from the tour, and this is now going to be your final 7-inch.
Correct. Yeah, we decided while we were in Europe that we should probably break up.
Okay.
Because we started writing more songs, and it didn't really sound like us. And it was like, man, if we put this out, kids are going to be like, what the hell's this?
Well, this doesn't really sound like you, but people love it. It's like some of the most classic stuff, don't you think?
Well, I think it was as far as we could swing and still be us.
Okay.
I think. And there's songs after that.
Okay.
There was 4 more songs that were written, and we had them on a practice demo on like a Tascam or something, and they're just lost. But one of the songs we played live at our final 2 shows, and it's on the Indecision discography.
Okay.
But you can tell it kind of has a more Jehu Rocket kind of sound, which was super influential for Steve and Eric at that point, songwriting-wise. And we just kind of knew, like, we can't keep swinging over. It's got to be one or the other. And we were like, let's just call it a day and go out while we're happy, 100% happy with everything.
Okay, so you decide you're going to break up, and then do you come back and still do shows in the States and do the 7-inch?
Correct, yeah, we do another tour.
Another full tour?
We do West Coast and East Coast on this one. So we do like 7 shows on the East Coast with Mouthpiece.
Fly out and play.
Yeah, we fly out and then do like 7 shows. And they were wild. Like, that's where I finally felt in the States that people...
You felt validated.
Yeah, like understood, like we hit on something and people were willing to go on the ride with us. And then we do a West Coast tour with Impel from here to Seattle. And from San Diego to Seattle, I think we do like 4 shows, 5 shows, something like that. Yeah.
And then that's
great.
And where in that time frame do you record the 7-inch?
Towards in the summer, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we recorded in the summer with Jim Monroe at over in Orange County. For the Record.
Okay.
I think
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, For the Record.
Paul Miner started recording there for a while.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And this is great. More rock, but still great and still. I said it doesn't sound like you, but it is a departure, but it's still Unbroken.
Yeah, I think the DNA is absolutely there.
That's probably the best way to put it, right? Yeah. And you love it.
I love it.
You love everything.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, even playing those songs, it still feels really good. Life of Regret's really hard to play live. It's emotional, draining. It's kind of hard to explain, but those songs when I play, there's a different mood. But when we play Life of Regret songs, It's a very melancholy feeling.
Yeah.
To this day, even when we would play the songs on the reunion shows, felt very melancholy because it was so real.
Well, it's bringing you back. I mean, I think even tonight you did a good job of explaining how you guys felt during that time.
Yeah.
So how could you not feel that way?
Yeah.
And this is, at least the last 7-inch, like you're on the same page and you're trying to go out positively.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's write one last rocker to make people want some more and then fucking never give it to them.
Yeah. And, I'm really proud of those songs. I think Steve and Eric are incredible musicians to write the way they did on those last 2 EPs. So I was really thankful to be a part of it.
Yeah. So you decide you're going to break up, you come back, you do East and West, and then what are the final shows?
So final shows is Showcase Theater in Corona, and then the Shea.
Okay.
Those are the last 2 shows. Thanksgiving weekend, basically that Friday, Saturday. And they were so cool, so fun.
Of 94 or 95?
95.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but you said that the last show was at the spot in Europe, no?
No, for the European tour.
Oh, okay.
So it was our first and last show in Europe at the
Oh,
007.
you bookended there.
Yes.
You started and ended there.
We started in December 94 and left We were there for 6 weeks on tour in Europe.
So it was long enough that you could come back and play the same club.
Yeah.
It's like Fields of Fire playing skate punks at the Shea Cafe.
Multiple times.
Shout out Bedge. So how does it feel when you're done? Like, you turn off your amp at the Shea Cafe, final show.
It was beautiful and sad and fun, and everyone was so kind and warm, and people were all dressed up, and seeing people there that were there from the beginning to people that got into us recently, all there sharing a special moment, and it was beautiful. Yeah, I loved it. It was, I don't think it could have gone any better.
How do you feel when you get home like that night and like lay in your bed?
I wonder, what am I going to do with my life? What's going on? And Kill Holiday had already started at this point. We had already started practicing before Unbroken broke up. We came up with the idea of doing that band while we were in Europe. But I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll do Kill Holiday and, try to find a job. And
the reason why I ask is because sometimes, especially, you're having success at all your shows now. And there is, no matter how, like, punk and deflecting you want to be from the popularity, there's always going to be a little bit of, like, a God complex that comes along from, like, that validation of so many people liking you. And it's a high. It's a huge high. That's why I wonder, like, when you have these, like, tentpole moments of your life like that, like a last show, and you're around and people are hugging you and saying how much they love you and this and that, like, when you get back and you're by yourself again, do you ever have, like, that fall off? Like, is it, because it's almost like it can be depressing to me sometimes.
I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah, but no, I don't feel that way. I felt that I just always feel fortunate. That's all I can say. I just feel like I've gotten to travel the world 10 times over because of hardcore. I've met people all over the world because of hardcore, and I'm thankful for it. And so I don't feel this like I need to play because I want people to like me, and I want, I don't have that validation. I do it because it's fun, and I like to see my friends and different parts of the world, and have a good time, and be thankful that we're in a hardcore band that like people care about, and I'm just thankful for it. And I think that's how I felt more than anything, is like sitting back thinking like, I'm so lucky. There's people that hadn't even left San Diego, and here we are, kids traveling the world.
Yeah, my mom used to teach ESL in Colonia and Oxnard, which is like, the neighborhood is probably only 10 minutes from the beach. And half our class had never seen the ocean.
Wow.
And it's crazy, like, the way so many people can live their life and not see anything because it may not be personally important to them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just, your home is, your home is your home and your family, and that's like all that can like lead to a fulfilling life for certain people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying one is better than the other.
Correct.
But it is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, think about you. You got to tour a few times and do all these different things. Even get flown out for a festival in Belgium or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like how thankful can you be that you're part of a scene that is willing to share and experience something you've created. And it feels good to be validated, but it also feels good to watch people smile and laugh and cry and go on that journey with you while you play.
Yeah.
That part feels good, and I'm just thankful for it.
Yeah. Did Kill Holiday start as a San Diego band?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, absolute San Diego band.
Because it turned into everyone kind of moved to Orange County, or was it always San Diego?
It was always San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah. Except for Todd, he moved to LA when he joined the band later after Barry left. But yeah, I was long gone by then.
Yeah. So what is the idea of starting the band?
Oh no, maybe Todd played bass on that. I don't remember. Sorry.
Todd replaced you on bass.
No, June from Impel did.
Oh.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, he did, and then Todd played, I think, on the Revelation record. That's right.
Okay.
Sorry.
So what was the idea behind starting Kill Holiday while you're still playing in Unbroken?
Yeah,
is this after you've had the talk of like we're probably gonna break up, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were in Europe, and Barry from Amenity was with us, selling merch and helping us out, and kind of roadieing, and we're like, oh, it'd be fun to do in a band, and we were super into like Quicksand and Helmet and all that type of stuff, Jawbreaker. Like it'll be fun to kind of do something like that, and so yeah, that's how it started, and then we did that EP.
Yeah, you do the first 7-inch, which is Monitor Dependency, 1995.
Correct. Yeah. So that came out. I think I had left the band like right soon after that EP came out. I wasn't really liking the newer stuff that they were writing, so I was kind of slowly not into it as much. And they, some of the stuff I was like, I don't know, I'm just not that into it, and so I was kind of starting to flake out here and there on going to practices.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a show coming up, and but Danzig and Marilyn Manson were playing like the day we were supposed to practice, and I'm like, this is Marilyn Manson's first show in San Diego, and this is the Danzig 4 tour, and I'm not gonna miss this, like. To go to band practice, and I remember Oscar calling me, and we were talking. He's like, "Look, man, like you're flaking out. Like I can kind of tell you're not into this." He's like, "If you can't make it to practice, you maybe just quit, man, and we'll just get someone else." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to the show." Yeah. And that was it.
That's a great exit.
And it was an awesome show.
Yeah, I bet. I know Danzig on Danzig 4.
Last good time I saw Danzig. Yeah.
Okay, so I saw him pretty recently, like. Maybe 6 years ago. It was great. Enjoyed it. And that's after all my friends saying, like, it's terrible now, this and that. So this is a good spot to decide if you want to go another hour or so, or if you want to wrap it up and leave Daniel wanting to hear his name. It's really up to you.
Well, it's totally up to you.
Okay. I think this is a good spot to pause, because I'm a little worried that it might go another 2, and then
I think so.
We got to work tomorrow, dude.
I know. I have to be up at 5:30.
Burly, super burly. But this has been so interesting. Again, thanks for letting me punish you with the Banda El Recuerdo. But because I think that's interesting, and then I like to hear more old San Diego stuff. I don't know how to get it. I think we're gonna have to get the vinyl communication dude.
Well, you should really get is Bob and Tim Mays.
Okay.
Like you should really get Tim Mays in here, because he was the one doing a lot of shows from 80 to 84 at the Adams Avenue Theater, California Theater, I think Lions Club. He was heavily involved in the punk scene.
It's hard for me to be able to prepare for something like that, and so it ends up being one of those scenarios where. Am I going to get 10 minutes, or am I going to
No, I mean,
So it might be best to have maybe both of them, or him and a buddy, where they can kind of riff.
It'd be good to have both of them on together. I mean, what's great about Tim is I I talk to him pretty often,
Mm-hmm.
and so I punish him all the time. Like, tell me about the show. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And he'll like talk for like 15, 20 minutes just about a particular show.
That's what we need.
And the stories are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And to think that he was 17, 18 and like booking the Cramps and like GBH and stuff, you're just
Awesome.
like, dude, this is so many great stories
So
from
rad.
those two guys.
Yeah, that's what we need to get.
Yeah.
Because I think I've done a pretty good job of like painting like the eras of Oxnard area, and I really want to do here, and it's hard. It's hard because like people's memories. I mean, you can't remember everything.
Yeah.
And that's so long ago.
I know.
And a lot of the people were inebriated, or those bad memories of getting beat up by some people got wiped out by better memories of having a girlfriend later in life.
Yeah, but the thing about Tim and Bob is that they, Bob did a label and did shows, and Tim did a lot of shows, and then ended up opening up the Casbah, which is a legendary venue in San Diego.
Sure.
And so just the stories of how he got into it, it's super interesting. And I literally probably 50% of the time when I see him, I'm like, okay, I saw a flyer for this show, and then he just tells me all about it.
So
and it's
rad.
The coolest thing to have someone that was at ground zero, 79 through like 84, and just booking the most insane shows. When you see these flyers, they're bonkers.
You'll have to put me in touch.
Yeah, I will.
Does he still own the Casbah?
Yes, he does.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he owns Starlight,
Okay.
the restaurant, and a few other spots.
Great.
Yeah.
I want to play the Casbah.
Yeah, it's an amazing place to play.
It's a beautiful place. Well, we're not really wrapping up because we'll do it again.
We'll
But
do a part two.
do you feel like up to 1994 you've been well represented?
Dare I say even up to 95.
Oh, you're right. The
Very-
breakup,
And yeah, the breakup and the start of Kill Holiday.
mid 95.
Yeah, I do feel well represented. I feel thankful to be on the other side of the mic where the legend Joe Rivas has talked.
Episode 1, baby.
Episode 1.
Yeah.
Guy has amazing stories. I love it. Hearing the stories of... That's what I love about the podcast, is I love hearing how people got into punk or what it was like when there was no phones, nothing. Word of mouth, going to a record store or skate shop or seeing someone with a Cramp shirt and like, where's the show? Like, what's going on, you know? Hearing all these old Oxnard guys. And then some people that are my age, like just right in the advent of the internet and the phones kind of changed everything. Hearing these stories from all these people is incredible.
Yeah.
That's what I love about the podcast. Like, you and 100 Words or Less and, Damien's podcast and a few others out there. I mean, and Dungeon Punks. I love hearing how people got into things and what it was like back then, and kind of living through their stories is my favorite part of your podcast. It's why I'm a Patreon. I mash that button every month.
Hey, Rob is one of the early mashers.
Early adopter.
Yeah, much respect. Yeah, I love thinking about like it's weird because pre-cell phone, it wasn't that long ago in my life. I mean, I got a cell phone when I was 22.
Yeah.
So you would have been late 20s when you got a cell phone?
Yeah.
So like all that part of your life, like that early punk, you never had it.
Oh, no.
I just love on one of those Forrest stories when he talks about his buddy calling him up and saying like, you got to get over this party. This girl's talking about you. And he hangs up and he's like, I have no, I don't know how to get in touch with you.
I was dying. It was even before Star 69.
I know, it's
couldn't
before
even do
Star
that.
69. I know. So it's like, fuck, that's so relatable though. Cause like, it would happen. That would happen.
Yeah.
You got to get down here.
Oh, yeah, we got dialers, and that's how we got around tour. We had pocket dialers.
Yeah.
And it was wild. You would go to a payphone and pretend to drop the quarters in and then contact the promoter like, okay, like drive here, look for the Denny's, and I'll meet you, I'll be there, or whatever,
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too, is doing all the touring before GPS
Oh, yeah.
we never had it, but we're total pussies because we already
What's
had
wrong with pussies?
nothing.
Pussies are very strong.
Okay. Are we going to mince the words on this? Yes. And women are much stronger than men.
It's true.
And most times a lot smarter.
Yes.
And better reasoning, many things, right?
Yeah.
But I still like the word, Jesus. Anyway, we still had like MapQuest.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, that's like,
That's
like the future.
Yeah.
When we were able to MapQuest stuff. So
Yeah,
I can't imagine before.
Yeah.
You know.
It was we would have Thomas Brothers and AAA maps, and I knew how to use Thomas Brothers because I went on construction sites with my dad all the time, and he taught me how to use the guide so I can navigate where we're going. And that's how we got around. Yeah. No, we would have to do that, like, kind of once you got into these city centers that weren't like Los Angeles, Chicago, whatever, that weren't mapped because, like the MapQuest would get you to the city. And then you had a Thomas guide. Yeah. You know, so. But anyway. Cool. It's all skills that don't matter anymore. No, they're very helpful because when the internet blows up, those that know how to use the Thomas Brothers are going to be okay. Oh, in World War IV? Or the post-World War IV? Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for doing this, Rob. Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah. That was Rob. He's a fucking man. We recorded pretty late on a work night. We both work, and so yeah, we took it as far as we thought we could go in one night, and we'll do it again. We both live in San Diego, and it'll happen. We gotta go through all the Over My Body stuff and all this post that band stuff, and you know, Rob's a interesting dude and a cool motherfucker. So we will do that again. Thanks for listening, guys. We will speak again next week. Goodbye.